So here's our example. We're not to think as Satan thinks. We're not to think as men think. We're not to seek after our own glory, but we're to emulate Christ by seeking humility. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled. And everyone who humbles himself will be exalted. So there's a reason that the Pharisees could not understand how this peasant, carpenter's son from Nazareth, could possibly be the Messiah, son of David. There's a reason why the majority of Jews rejected Jesus. They weren't looking for a Messiah who would suffer on their behalf to destroy the reign of sin in their lives. They want a Messiah who would conquer an earthly kingdom, who would destroy the reign of Rome over their lives. And much like many Christians today, they wanted Christ to give them prosperity and to liberate them from any outside controls. The last thing the Jews of that day wanted to hear, and the last thing that Christians today want to hear about, is suffering, sacrifice, and least of all, a cross. But that's exactly what real Christianity is. Natural man wants to bypass the cross and immediately take up their crown. But that's simply not how it works. So then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For those who would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So I don't do a whole lot of commentary on this because Jesus spoke so eloquently for himself. But it is really hard for me to reconcile this whole idea of if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. With this contemporary Christian nonsense we hear throughout the American church now. Jesus did it all. There's nothing I can add to what he did on the cross. I said my sinner's prayer. Now I can live however I want. That contemporary Christian attitude is exactly what was being expressed by Satan in the wilderness and Peter in his confrontation that we talked about today. Whenever I preach about the requirement of us to take up our cross and actually follow the Lord, evangelicals who, like Peter, may think they are being sincerely pious and Christian, think they're being spiritual, they yell at me, far be it from the Lord. He would never require that of you. But what does Jesus' response to this very humanistic aversion to suffering? He says, get behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me. For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but the things of man. So preachers like to give us cheap grace. Easy believism, packs the churches, but it appears that Christ himself gives us two divergent options. We have one option, which in the short term is probably more desirable, because it doesn't involve any suffering. It's the theology of glory. If we adopt for that one, that's our choice. Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Or the way we would phrase it in our common vernacular is, get the heck out of the way. That's what he means, get behind. He's like, just get out of my way. Because you are hindrance to me. For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. Option 2, it's not as alluring. It's not as glamorous. But the rewards last for eternity. If anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. When Jesus talks about denying ourselves, he's not talking about self-discipline or asceticism. When we diet, we deny ourselves food, but it's certainly not a denial of self. We deny ourselves food so we can have beautiful bikini bodies and show them off. We diet for the glory of ourselves. We also can't chalk up the everyday annoyances of life. I have a flat tire, I have acne, my kids are driving me crazy. These normal annoyances of life are not your cross to bear. Certainly, when we have to deal with the natural consequences of our foolish and sinful actions, or we're disciplined for our sinful actions, that's not our cross to bear. When Jesus says denying self, taking up our cross, he means taking on the attitude of Christ. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to your own interests, but the interests of others. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done.